Okay, ageism. Too young, too old. We must be careful what concepts we hold about old people and even the young. Ageism is an attitude people primarily inflict on themselves. Come what may, we are all growing older. It is inevitable. But do you think that aging can be avoided merely by avoiding or denying it? Challenges of getting older. We cannot escape the fact that older age has its challenges. Older, we experience depletion in parts of our lives. Our bodies and senses weaken, become unreliable in unforeseen ways, fall subject to illness, and require more attention simply to continue at a reasonable level of function. More difficult is the loss of friends and family and the changes in the social institutions where we once had a place. Most difficult and certainly most frightening is the threat of actual loss of mental capacity. None of these occurrences are part of how we thought of ourselves or planned our future. We here encounter something unexpected, sometimes frightening, and sometimes revelatory. And now, as more and more of us live to advanced years, it's crucial to accept and even embrace our current state. So, finding new ways of looking at ourselves in our world. So, late in their lives, Michelangelo, Georgia O'Keeffe, the artist, Stravinsky, the conductor, and many others found new and unexpected ways of looking at themselves and their world. They continued and even extended their arts. I think Georgia O'Keeffe was an artist until she was 98, and actually she went blind in her, I think, later 70s, and she couldn't no longer paint, but she took up pottery instead. She had that creative urge. She had to continue no matter what. Michelangelo actually passed away while he was still working on a project, and Stravinsky was very creative later in his life, his late 80s. In old age, as their bodies weakened and the world changed, they did not look away. Instead, in worlds of decline and loss, they experienced new tonalities, new music, new patterns. Having exhausted more conventional possibilities, they discovered new relationships to melody and harmony, to narrative, to color, form, light, and space. Things opened up for them. They didn't just stop, something else opened up for them. They found unforeseen paths, articulated subtleties, and beauties never before encountered. So that, in a sense, you can say there's always more to discover, to actually allow our consciousness to open up to. The work they left us and the stories of their lives are signposts for us as examples. However, current signposts of cognitive mental capacity are not really too promising, where dementia describes a condition while Alzheimer's related to cognitive decline has been named as a physical disease. So about 1 in 9 people aged 65 and older has Alzheimer's. And that percent increases as we go into our 70s and 80s. It's kind of a travesty to think of that, but 1 out of 9 people aged 65 and older has Alzheimer's or some form of cognitive decline or dementia. Senility typically involves mild cognitive changes, such as occasional forgetfulness. Senile dementia, on the other hand, results in a significant and often progressive decline in cognitive abilities, including memory, language, and problem-solving skills. So all these are a form of cognitive decline, which are current signposts in our world, which can relate to environmental factors, genetic factors, lifestyle factors, and we'll look at more of those next month. But about 1/3 of all people age 85 or older may have some form of dementia, but is not a normal part of aging. Many people live into their 90s and beyond without any signs of dementia. So that's the promise that there is, provided we do some conscious work and some, you'd say, physical work too. Still the same experience. So looking at this, just considering people with dementia, cognitive decline, have emotions, relationships, daily life, tasks to accomplish, and more. It's still the same human experience. People with dementia think about the same things that any human would. They care for themselves in spite of the mental impedance they may have. Scripture assures us that nothing can separate us from the love of God, not even a dementia that may strip a person of her awareness of God's presence. So it's still the same experience, which brings us to mindfulness. The purpose of exercising mindfulness is to stay present. It is of considerable benefit to both a caregiver and the one affected by dementia. So looking here, so the caregiver and the one affected by dementia. Only in the present moment do we appreciate the immediacy of beauty, companionship, and all the good things of life. Only in the present moment. With our intuitive thought processes, we receive and savor our own feelings and the feelings of others. So a sense of communion, no matter what, however a person's cognitively deficient. So gets more into this along here. We experience beauty and the full richness of all we perceive through our senses, what we see, hear, smell, taste, or touch. It can be very rewarding to spend time with someone who lives in the intuitive world, whether of normal capability or with degrees of cognitive decline. So I think some of you may have some experiences like that. We can open up after when we discuss in terms of how that experience can happen, a rewarding with someone who lives in the intuitive world. Fulfilling experience may be shared whenever we stop having expectations of how others of normal or declining mental abilities should behave. So when we stop thinking, well, I wish that person would think a little bit better, but we're just with that person. We're just with ourselves. So mindfulness, being in presence, there is no expectation. Do you ever notice that when you're fully present, there's no expectation. We can commune with each other. We can have an experience of richness and of beauty. So what does it take? So there's a little exercise here called from a process from a unified mindfulness presence exercise. So we'll do a little exercise in this respect. So it relates to what we see, what we hear, and what we feel. So one way of actually bringing yourself to presence in the moment is actually engaging our senses in this way. So just for a moment, we can explore with the hear sense. So if you want to maybe close your eyes and just listen. Listen to what you hear. And it could be a car outside moving along the road, or your heater or your air conditioning going off. So as you hear, just sense what you hear. And it might be an external noise, or there might be an internal sound you may hear. And as we just take time actually to notice what we hear, or what we feel, or what we see, it assists to bring us into the present moment. And a little continuation of this exercise as your eyes are closed. You can notice what you might see, even with your eyes closed, or you may not see anything. Or you may hear again, you may notice a hearing of something. And then you might feel something. You might feel your hands on your table or your desk or in your lap, or the clothes around your neck. So just notice. And you can label as that awareness comes into your awareness, whether you're hearing something or feeling something or seeing something. So let's take a few seconds to notice that inside of ourselves. Okay, that's a process of exploring our senses there. Let me just stop for a moment and see what your experience has been with that. Okay, our future is no longer limitless. You say when we come to our, as John coined, our third and fourth quarter of our lives, when we're a little bit younger, we may have thought, we're going to live a long time, but as we turn that corner, there's a sensing, there's a certain limitless to our lives, not limitless. It's generally utterly unknowable. So I took some words from Martin, and this where he mentions about moving from the known to the unknown. This begins to occur when we have reached a point where we stop judging, where the use of our six senses simply acquaints us with what is present. In presence, things are as they are, without expectation, judgment. I suppose the state of non-judgment with respect to the issues of the moment, the circumstances of the moment, whatever they may be, is a state of standing still. That leaves us with a sense of vacancy, so to speak. All right, let's give thanks for being vacant for the moment, because then there is the room for something else to put in an appearance. So Martin had those words to say, and let's look at this here, allowing something more to put in an appearance. Now, this diagram that Robert helped me design works in so many different dimensions. So we're going to look at it in terms of our six senses, or actually five senses here, which allows us to be present with those if we're utilizing them correctly. And then neurologically, they correlate with our solar plexus, right in the pit of our stomach, basically. And you can say that's where our subconscious mind comes to focus within our beings. The five senses integrate there. And it gives us a sense of intuition, our sixth sense. And our sixth sense is basically our perception, the integration of our perceptions of the world. And sometimes that sixth sense, though, may be slanted with judgment that kind of filters things off. But if there's without judgment, it allows for an experience of beauty and the full richness of all we perceive through our senses, the beautiful color of the leaves this time of year, or the feeling of fresh air available in the blue sky. So it allows our conscious mind to begin to open up, to perceive something from the world beyond our expectations. And that's where it opens the seventh sense. The seventh sense, our illuminated sense, where something comes down, experiencing unforeseen new tonalities, like Michelangelo and George O'Keeffe and Stravinsky, experiencing unforeseen new tonalities, new music, new patterns that come from the seventh sense, where the serendipity of the unknown become known, and allowing our hearts, when our heart is in the right way, right attitudes such as thankfulness, appreciation, patience. And I think all of us can relate to one simple attitude or positioning of our hearts of praise. When our heart is positioned that way, and I did a presentation on heart math last month for a group, and when our heart is actually beating in a way where our heart rhythms are coherent, it allows our heart to be positioned to open up that seventh sense. So then allowing something more to put in appearance from above, down, inside, out, where you can say that the nature, the true nature of light, the union of light within ourselves is allowed to actually find its way through our capacities of heart, mind, body, and out through our senses. Our senses become, rather being so receptive, they become radiant senses. So there's something more to come out. So let's personally consider what has been most meaningful to you in what I've shared so far. How does it relate to yourself, your family, friends, and the world? The world. Okay, so let's take a few minutes. Robert has some music for us to consider that. If you have some paper and pen or pencil, that'd be good. Maybe write some thoughts down, and we can look to share those. Only, but they can be as personal, but only looking to share what you feel comfortable with. So let's take a few minutes. Robert, you have some music for us?